Min Sleeve has released an absolute banger. We were actually on call last night and she was like, oh, I gotta release a video real quick. And then I was like, I'm gonna watch it. She was like, hell yeah. Alice just leaked Genshin's true ending, apparently. So let's dive into this and see what this is all about.
I think Alice may have already revealed Genshin's ending, and as
I can only assume here she's talking about in the event when she was like, "Ooh, the Abyss's unchosen fate stuff."
AMD may have just handed us some very important proof, and now more than ever, I really believe Traveler needs to become the new heavenly principles.
Yo.
I know you've heard me say this already, and you're going to keep hearing me say crazy things, but hear me out with this theory. What Alice says about the Abyss might have finally explained how fate works. Why the siblings' so-called war with destiny makes sense, why Teyvat keeps producing the very thing that threatens to destroy it, and what kind of answer the Traveler may eventually need if this story is going to end without the whole world collapsing. In the Luna 5 event, Homeward He Who Caught the Wind, Alice says something we had never heard before.
The essence of the Abyss lies in the hatred carried by all the fates that will not come to pass.
The unchosen traveler becoming the Abyss sibling was predetermined by fate.
And that line changes everything.
It does.
Up until now, the Abyss to us was this evil corruption or forbidden knowledge, a hostile force from beyond Teyvat. But Alice gives it a much deeper definition. In her words, what the Abyss really is at its core is hatred born from possibilities that were never allowed to become real.
I'm curious how this is going to tie to Asmodee in the latest trailer though, like she said at the beginning, because yes, I took a lot from this and I've come up with my own theories from this, but I haven't tied any to the Asmodee stuff.
Explains that with a small example. If Alice chooses Sweet Madame for lunch, then the version of Alice who chose tea break pancakes instead is gone. That possibility doesn't become real. So every time one thing happens, something else doesn't. One reality is selected and another is discarded.
It's
and
erased.
that tells us a lot about how fate works. Because when Alice says fates that will not come to pass, she makes fate sound much less like one rigid script and much more like a plethora of possibilities.
True.
Different routes can exist. Different versions of events can be possible.
Which we also kind of see, honestly, in characters, what do you call them? Hangouts. In character hangouts, right? They have multiple different branching paths with different endings and different choices.
Some major outcomes still seem fated to happen no matter which path you take. Fate itself seems to favor certain outcomes. Take Varka, for example. The Hex and Circle basically describe a possible version of Monsad's history where Varka becomes the hero who faces Dvalin. But in the reality we know, Varka has already gone on an expedition to Nodcry, so that version of events doesn't happen. But it's implied that Dvalin wouldn't have simply escaped his fate forever. Another hero would have come to save Mondstadt instead. Another painful version of the same general outcome would have happened.
God, I love this. I really do like this. I'm assuming this video is going to go way more in depth about this, but it does remind me of something that I wanted to bring up as well in regards to the Abyss and technically forbidden knowledge. Recently, we've been watching like Minecraft ARGs, kind of original virtual stories, right? And one of them was searching for a world that doesn't exist and destroying a world that doesn't exist. It kind of took me on a bit of a tangent and a bit of a spiral, because that story is based off of a book called The King in Yellow, I think it's called. And genuinely, dude, as we were watching that, it kind of related a lot to some aspects of Genshin, I felt like. Like The King in Yellow kind of reminded me a little bit of Deshret, and the forbidden knowledge being when you take a peek at the forbidden, you get all of the knowledge of the entire world that you're not supposed to have, and it corrupts you from within, right? Very similar stuff. I urge people to go take a look at The King in Yellow. It's a pretty short story from what I've seen.
Once you understand
very
fate
interesting.
That way, Alice's explanation of the Abyss gets much darker. Because if fate keeps selecting one version of reality, then what happens to everything it doesn't choose? Alice's answer is that those denied possibilities don't just simply vanish.
Of course.
Their rejection becomes hatred. And if that's true, then the Abyss is not just an outside threat. It's also...
Oh my god, and he was rejected.
...a byproduct of how Teyvat is built. The problem may be that the world itself keeps producing abyssal hatred every time it narrows countless possibilities down into one accepted reality. What makes this even crazier is that the Abyss doesn't seem to be exclusive to Teyvat at all. Skirk's backstory.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I was about to say Skirk's backstory literally taught us this about her home planet and also just what is beyond the false firmament, right?
He makes it sound like the Abyss exists across other planets too.
What if it is the Heavenly Principles doing, bro? What if all of the unchosen fates are all of the planets that we passed that were unchosen by the ship for the travelers to live among? And what if we are the ones that are creating this? That'd be kind of insane. I doubt that's going to be the case, but it would be kind of interesting.
Although on Skirk's planet, her people had a special adaptability that allowed them to come into contact with the Abyss much more safely than normal. In Teyvat, it seems to become especially violent because of how this world handles fate, truth, and rejection. Alice says that part of her job is maintaining the stability of Teyvat's border, that abyssal energies lie beyond it, and that disturbances there cause those strange phenomena around Nogcry. At first, you might think that just means the false sky, but after what she says in Mondstadt, the border starts sounding like more than just a barrier between us and outer space. It may be the boundary between accepted reality and all rejected realities.
Which again does kind of make sense, since this is the accepted reality by the quote-unquote Heavenly Principles, or the ship, right? To make it the traveler's home planet, the only one that can actually sustain them.
Alice even says that in the bubble world, some of those unchosen fates came very close to reality, and that is when the Abyss showed its teeth.
Yep.
The danger is not only that denied possibilities exist, but rather what happens when they get too close to becoming real. And if hatred of those denied possibilities is what the core of the Abyss is, then the siblings' goals start to look very different.
Yep.
The sibling says their war with destiny will not end until the Abyss has engulfed the thrones. But after Alice's explanation, it starts sounding like someone who believes the world is unjust at the level of its design. Someone who thinks fate is not just cruel sometimes, but unfair by design. But this doesn't make the Abyss order fully right. Alice is still very clear that the Abyss in its current form is destructive. It doesn't seek healthy coexistence.
Oh, this is interesting.
Ruin. And the Abyss Order seems to echo that sentiment to a certain degree. But Alice's line makes the sibling side more understandable. It suggests the sibling may be right about the problem even if they are using the wrong method to solve it. And nowhere is that clearer than with Khaenri'ah. With this logic, we can...
Oh god, we're getting into Khaenri'ah lore, bro. Okay, we're about halfway through this video. So, I'm curious where this is gonna go. Min did say, because we were on call last night, and she was like, oh, she had like a lot of fun with this video, but it's definitely more of a, what word did she use? Not like a rambling. I can't remember the exact word she used, but she was basically saying like her thoughts were kind of jumping around, and it wasn't really a like structured, cohesive place or something. But she had a lot of fun with it, and I think that's where the best theories come from.
Theorized that the sibling seems to believe Khaenri'ah's rightful future was denied, and through the loom of fate, they're trying to force that lost reality back into the world.
Okay.
That's why the loom of fate matters so much to them. It's an attempt to use memories and ley lines to make the rejected reality where Khaenri'ah still peacefully exists real again.
Interesting. Okay, I like that idea. I do. So using the loom of fate to make rejected realities a chosen reality, forcing those rejected realities to come back. Honestly, I fuck with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that'd be pretty cool.
But Hayden immediately warns that after 500 years, their memories are damaged, and a world woven from broken memories would itself be broken. That warning is super important. The answer isn't just to bring back those denied realities at any cost, because the consequence of that could be catastrophic. There's probably a reason certain realities were denied in the first place, and that is where the three possible paths show up. Either one, we keep the current world order and keep everything as is.
Okay, just real quick, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the structure of the story of Genshin is actually kind of coming, obviously it's coming to an end, right? Because we're getting super close to the end, whether people want to admit it or not. We're only a couple of years away from finishing the Teyvat chapter now. I have a feeling, obviously we're stuck in a cycle, right? A samsara, that's kind of obvious. This is a cyclical game, it's probably going to end where it started. I have a feeling these samsaras are caused by Irminsul. It's like a backup with all the memory and the knowledge, right? And Dottore burning the Irminsul is going to end up being what kind of ends up making it so that this cycle can stop repeating. And I do think that is going to be the case. I think the Traveler's goal is to become like the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. I think the Sustainer had her job of remembering everything of how the unified civilization was, and that's what the Temple of Space is showing. I think the Traveler has a very similar job. Like in the story profile, it was like, what was it again? The Creator is absent, you must ascend to the throne or something. Ascend to the throne in the sky. That we're going to take her place, become the new Sustainer, like the new Heavenly Principles. Our job is to be a witness of Teyvat, to remember how everything was. We've had events where we had to solve discrepancies in the bubble world to test our memory. We're having an event, which was in the last live stream, where it's cartography, where we have to literally do a whole map to make sure that we can you know, structure a map in terms of how it should be and how it looks. And then I do feel like we're going to become the sustainer. We're going to create a new Teyvat. That's how we're going to stop this cycle. Dotori is going to burn the Irminsul, which is going to prevent this cycle from repeating when the world does inevitably get destroyed. Again, if we go back to the Natlan quest, this is all over the place, but hear me out. If we go back to the Natlan world quest in Little Guy, when we blew up Teyvat, what happened? We just started again. My thoughts were, what if that isn't just us reloading a save state in real life? What if it makes sense lore-wise? And what if when the world blows up, the cycle just resets, and technically we went through all of the story that we've already been through again and ended up in the same spot because fate is indeed written and has been from day one. And I really like that theory because it does mean that it was technically a canonical ending. The Samsara cycle just reset. Choices don't fucking matter. And we ended up in the exact same spot that we were in and made the right decision because that's how fate was determined. So the only way to stop that would be Dotori burning Irminsul, the Traveler working alongside the goddamn Harbingers at some point, right? Maybe as the new Fatui Harbinger member or old member. But burning the old world so that the Traveler's new world can then exist. It's a crazy theory, but I do like the idea. I do really like the idea. That was a huge yap session, but I really love that theory. And it's probably a crack theory, but it's a very fun theory.
Possible paths show up. Either 1, we keep the current world order and keep everything as is, or 2, we force the denied fates to exist simultaneously, even though the results may be a catastrophic multiverse of some sorts.
Yep.
So the Traveler may be the only viable third path, an entirely new outcome.
Yep.
An unpredictable variable, if
a new
you will.
world.
This possibility makes sense because the Traveler is a descender. Descenders are beings who can transcend Teyvat's laws and influence its fate. And that brings us to the part that may matter way more than people realize.
Okay.
Memory. Because in Genshin, memory is part of the world's architecture. Irminsul is the repository or database of Teyvat's information, and
yeah, I am very curious what information we're going to end up getting on the Irminsul as we get closer to its destruction, and if it does actually like affect the Traveler in the slightest. I have a feeling, even though we're a descender, I don't know. The thing that makes us forget is Asmodee. Right. And again, with her looking all corrupted and losing herself, basically, I do have a feeling that when the world ends, she is the one that is causing us to go into this apathic interval, like it was said in the live stream, by cubing us, right? Every time we try to escape or every time the world does end, and she's the one resetting it. That if she has to do that a certain amount of times, that could be why she's becoming like more corrupted and forgetting who she is and what her whole game plan is. Asmodee's character intrigues me so much. I think we are going to learn a lot about Asmodee in this latest world quest. I'm very excited.
Memories.
Very
and those
excited.
Memories are gathered through the ley lines. That means memory in Teyvat is part of how the world stores what counts as reality. When things are deleted or altered in the Irminsul, the world itself reflects that change. And if rejected fates become the abyss, while memory is one of the ways Teyvat keeps reality stable, then the real issue is in the way the world is designed. Zhongli says the Traveler can act as a backup of sorts for the times and tides of Teyvat. That's a huge clue. Teyvat can lose or rewrite its own truth, but the Traveler can still remember it. And if the abyss comes from the possibilities the world rejects, then the Traveler may be the only one who can still remember what was lost and use that truth to help create a better system.
Exactly.
That's also why I think
we definitely are still privy to falling back into cycles during Teyvat. But in terms of memory, it is something that by the end of the story, even if the Irminsul is destroyed, we will still remember stuff and be able to create something new.
Can't just store denied fates in Irminsul because Irminsul is part of the world's active memory system. And if incompatible memories can leak back into reality, then putting all those denied fates there could just cause so many problems. We might fry Teyvat's circuits with all that information processing, basically. Alice's Mondstadt explanation shows why that is dangerous. The abyss appeared when unchosen fates got too close to becoming real. The real problem is, how do we acknowledge these denied fates or let them represent in reality without letting them overwrite the current world?
It's a really tough one as well, because even with the theory of like the canonic ending in Natlan being a thing and the world restarting, it does then bode the question, right? Like, if that is the case, why couldn't the Traveler remember stuff? But at the same time, we know the Traveler's memory can be fucked up by certain things. We saw it in the very beginning of the game, right? There is explanations, and stuff like that usually comes out when we need to know it, right? I mean, we didn't even know about the freaking ship until a couple of months ago. So I'll never discount stuff like that just on the practice of theorizing, but it is very much a possibility that it's just complete and utter bullshit, so.
Genshin, we've actually seen quote-unquote prototypes for what a new world system could look like. The Sacred Sakura in Inazuma shows that that a secondary divine tree network can also exist
True.
and help stabilize the world without simply replacing the original one. Its network absorbs filth, purifies the land, and keeps dangerous buildup contained even if that buildup still needs maintenance. Then Natlan gives us another example with the Night Kingdom. After Natlan's original ley lines were badly damaged, the Lord of the Night used fragments of the old ley lines to reconstruct a similar network. It became a parallel system with different rules. It means a new world memory system can be rebuilt from fragments and configured differently from the main one.
Yep.
Then you have the Loom of Fate, which is the dangerous version of a similar idea. It proves memory can be used as material for rebuilding reality. It might prove that denied worlds can be pushed back toward existence, but it might also prove how badly that can go if the source memory is broken. And then there's another clue with Durin, which may be one of the most important hints
Wait, with Durin?
entire story.
Okay.
Durin was initially rejected by Irminsul, but later the Hexenzirkel and the Traveler took steps that allowed him to be accepted as a different entity.
Shit,
that means the
true.
world's acceptance rules can change. Something that did not fit before can later be recognized under a new framework. All of this could lead us to the true ending of Genshin. Not deleting the abyss, not letting every denied reality flood back into the current reality, but changing the rules so that the fates that were automatically rejected no longer have to return as hatred. And this is exactly why the Temple of Space feels so huge right now, because Asmodee may have already realized something that we didn't before. The Temple of Space is described as a repository of fragments created by Asmodee, the ruler of space.
Indeed.
It makes me wonder if this realm means Asmodee may have already figured out how to keep rejected realities from crashing the world. But her answer seems to be stasis, to freeze it and archive it. Which seems like a practical answer, but not...
Maybe not even that. Again, just record it, right? If this is recordings of the unified civilization back before all of the nations were split into their own independent regions, basically, with different people governing over it, and this is from the unified civ with, like, you know, Nibelung and everything else, this could be incredibly lore-dense, very story-dense, and it could make a lot of dots connect in terms of what Asmodee's plan was. If it was the same as the Traveler, just to be a witness and preserve history, I think that'd be sick. I do. But if it's as Min says, that would put a whole different spin on her as a character.
Figured out how to keep rejected realities from crashing the world. But her answer seems to be stasis, to freeze it and archive it. Which seems like a practical answer, but not a compassionate one.
Yeah.
It keeps the problem contained, but it doesn't necessarily make things right. Because I don't think the final solution is a bunch of parallel universes happily running next to Teyvat in their own little realms. Genshin's own system suggests something more careful.
This is going to be so interesting. I need to talk to Min about this, actually. I'm gonna have to screenshot this and send it. The fact that this could be the sequel to Before Sun and Moon, it could be after Sun and Moon, or something else to do with it, because we've got a blue book here, a yellow book here, this is the sun, and somebody translated this stuff on Reddit, and it was, the text on it was and moon, I think, or something. I think it was just sun and moon, but the first couple of letters were cut off. Dude, it's going to be so interesting. There's going to be so much information in this place.
Than either total reintegration or total erasure. That's why Traveler may need to rise to become the new heavenly principles, or at least to the same level of authority. If the current world order keeps allowing the production of abyssal hatred, then the ending may require someone to rewrite the rules of Teyvat to fix it. Traveler
to sustain the new heavenly principles
may need to create a new set of rules for the world, where rejected fates no longer have to become hatred in the first place. A new order where denied fates can be acknowledged without being erased, but also without being allowed to crash directly into the current reality. Because of their unique memory and their ability to preserve the absolute truth, the Traveler may be the only one who can remember what was lost, refuse both the old order's unfair system of fate and the abyss's destructive nature, and build a system that no longer turns rejection into hatred. There needs to be a combination of Teyvat's current systems, perhaps, in order to create a new place where denied fates can be preserved and acknowledged under new rules without being allowed to directly overwrite the current world.
I could
Teyvat
see
is
that.
a world that keeps choosing one reality and throwing the rest away, and that is always going to create a huge problem. So maybe the ending of Genshin isn't simply the Traveler versus the Abyss, or the Traveler versus the Heavenly Principles. Maybe it's Traveler finally creating a world that no longer has to turn rejected realities into abyssal energy.
where the Teyvats can then finally bloom freely without the curse of the forbidden knowledge and the unchosen fates, making it all toxic and shit.
And stopping the cycle that Teyvat is trapped in once and for all. But there is something we don't have an answer to yet. If their Traveler and their sibling are able to absorb abyssal energy, where does it go? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. I'm your Leafy Lore Keeper Minzlif, and I read the Genshin Impact lore so that you don't have to.
That is a great question. I don't know about Lumine or like the Abyss sibling, but if we as the Traveler can indeed absorb abyssal energy, if we can absorb unchosen fates, if we could affect that, where does it go? What effect does it have on us? I haven't really thought too much about that, but it is some good food for thought, and it is probably something we should discuss. Maybe I'll have a chat with Min about that on the video that we do together. Subscribe!